So we're going to talk about political oppression in society and around the world today. Mm-hmm. Do you think the U.S. has a role to fight illegitimate governments, or do you think that it's within the citizens of that country to coalesce and take over themselves?
It's an interesting question because on one hand, the U.S. is seen as, or portrays itself as the leader of the free world, and thus believes that it has a responsibility to promote democracy across the world. However, I'm not sure if the U.S. has the right to really intervene in other countries' affairs. I do think that political oppression should be a universal right, in that if a country is being politically oppressed, some type of world coalition should get together to come up with either sanctions or legislature to try to mitigate that oppression, but I think that the U.S.'s role should be minimal.
Okay, so can you give me some general conditions you think, or some characteristics of an oppressive government, just like generally?
Yeah, absolutely. Generally, and it could be a variety of things that actually in the end up being a combination that make up an oppressive government.
Mm-hmm.
The government could pass laws that forbid you from doing certain things, from congregating as you like, from speaking as you like, and all provisions on it were designed to discriminate against black Africans.
Mm-hmm.
There were laws like the Law and Order Maintenance Act that police could arrest you anytime for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you had no provisions for courts to go to the court to decide what you're going to do. I have relatives who were political prisoners for 11, 12, 13 years.
Wow.
The president of Zimbabwe right now was a prisoner for 12 years. And so that was the kind of regime that was. It was a racist regime.
Mm-hmm.
And oppressed people based on their race, or deny them the right to vote, deny them all kinds of privileges. The current government is still an oppressive government,
mm-hmm.
even though it is now black ruled and everything, because it too uses the law to suit its own purposes.
So it's still racist towards black people?
It's not racist towards black people. Neither is it racist really towards white people, but that the government possesses such powers that you actually can be arrested without trial, put in prison for a while. Sometimes you can be arrested and brought to court, and they have judges that will sign off on anything that the government wants.
Mm-hmm.
There's supposedly a free press, and some newspapers are actually they're free and quite active. And yet most of the media institutions are controlled by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that comes out of radio and television...
it's censored.
Well, it's not only censored, it really just produces a government line,
mm-hmm.
right, as opposed to anything else.
I find it really interesting that Patrick and Handel both had opposing views on whether the government should ever be able to suspend human rights. Handel is obviously way more towards they should never be able to, and Patrick was more towards if there's a war, a civil war or a rebellion, they should be able to control that. I think there's a lot of thought that has to go into that process, but there definitely is benefits to both. I think that if you can suspend rights, it's a slippery slope from there. It's only a matter of time, maybe, before a leader comes in and he just manipulates those phrases and uses it to his advantage. And yeah, we have checks and balances going on, but really, I don't think we ever really want to risk having that kind of a situation. I also agreed with Handel when he said that citizens should be allowed to rebel should they be under an oppressive government. I personally know that if I were being oppressed, I just would not enjoy my life whatsoever. I'd be living under the fear that the government would take my property, the government would take anything I earned. The government can punish me for things I didn't do if they needed a scapegoat. I just wouldn't be able to live comfortably.
So, as you just heard, I'm doing a project regarding political repression, and I guess a good way to start would be to ask you whether or not you know what that is exactly.
Sure. Political repression would be discrimination against people based on their political views, with the intention of stopping them from participating in political events, taking political office, stuff like that.
Okay, so you do know what it is. That's great. So one of the questions that we had to answer was what problem we think we would be most closely related to when we grow up, and I answered political repression, obviously. So I had my own views about how I would address the problem, and I was curious as to what you would do to address the problem. Would you address it directly, work with organizations? How would you approach this issue?
Well, I would say you definitely need unbiased organizations to work this through and make sure, especially there are a lot of less developed nations where political repression is just rampant, and they'll do it in the light of day and whatever, no matter what it takes for them to win, for them to stay in power, however corrupt they are. Even here in the United States, there's a lot of these the gerrymandering based on ethnicity, based on voting patterns. A lot of these voter fraud laws that are really just designed to keep people from voting and from having their voices heard. So if we have it here, it's some of these less developed nations where the political officers are so clearly corrupt. They're going to have it rampantly, and it's got to be a big focus. And people who are in political power have to have the courage to stand up and take a stand against it, so that something can be done to stop it.
Our topic was political repression, which is the political persecution of people in order to maintain political power and obviously get what you want, what a person wants. My opinion obviously is against it, but the truth of the matter is that there is political repression abroad in the world. It's a global issue, and if anything, we, especially here in Bethesda, are shielded very well from it. But the truth of the matter is there are places like Ethiopia or Afghanistan where people are actually murdered because they have opposing views to those who are already in power, and it's just really saddening. I'm going to say my core values right now are determination, discipline, perseverance, and I guess I would take those core values and just apply myself to the problem, trying to find a solution, I guess taking an experimental approach to try and find the right solution that benefits society the most. Kind of like a utilitarian approach, I guess. Yeah, bye.